Hello, hello. I'm Beth Salyers, and this is the Curiosity Café. Today, I am joined by two brilliant humans who taught me how to use my voice, literally. Erin Clark and Julie Fogg, co-owners of Vital Voice Training, helping people show up in their full power without losing their humanity. In this conversation, we dig into curiosity as resistance and voice as agency, how to stay creative in chaotic systems, how to tell truth in an age of noise, and how to practice play even when the world feels heavy. If you've ever been torn between authenticity and adaptation, this one is certainly for you. Take a deep breath and let's get curious. And I am delighted and over the moon to have Erin Clark and Julie Fogg here. Fogg. I always call them Julie and Casey. And that's because I was able to be in their Vital Voice class like 3 years ago
Yeah.
ish.
Yeah.
And I knew Julie from a previous community, and I was like, "Yes, Vital Voice. I wanna learn, I wanna practice, I wanna play." And y'all pushed me to learn and practice and play, and I did the most bold one of the most bold things I've ever done in your program that I think about often when I see the same hat I wore. So, the fact that you would both give up some time to talk with me today on something called the Curiosity Tour is, I take it very seriously, and I'm very, grateful. So thank you both for being here. And would you both like to introduce yourselves?
Sure. I will jump in. First of all, before I say my name, I just want to say that what you did that you're referring to at the end of that course remains one of our favorite memories of any of those cohorts that we taught. So just FYI, that was one of our freaking favorites. Um, So I'm Julie Fogg, and that's Fogg with an H on the end because I'm fancy and it's Danish, just to confuse everyone that there's something more there. Um,
Conversation starter. I love it.
it's conversation starter. I am a co-founder of Vital Voice Training along with Casey. I come from Seattle. I was just mentioning before we started recording that I've come back from there more um, lately I've been really experiencing that sense of place kind of calling me back, or at least recognizing that sense of place that I come from, which is one of the things that I love about voice so much is it's everything that makes you you. We say this a lot, but it really is true. So coming from Seattle, coming from the Seattle freeze, coming from my family of there's the like that quote in Mad Men that January Jones says when someone accuses her of being cold, and she's just like, "My people are Nordic." Um, my people are Nordic, and that has created such a different kind of communication challenge than what we talk about with what Casey experiences. I land on that introverted shy side, how to figure out I had a voice and then start using that voice, and now teaching other people to use their voice has kind of been, it's not just my job, it's felt very much like a calling. And I don't say that lightly, and I don't say that to just be cheesy. I genuinely feel that this is deeply important work, both for myself and for the world.
I'll just say that it is Julie's calling and it is also my calling. And I will also echo Julie's thing about your performance. It comes up often, actually. When we describe the final projects to our clients, we're like, well, you can do a this, a this, a this. And then we describe your performance, which I don't even want to give it away unless you feel good about us sharing about it. But it was truly legendary. Um, So my name is Erin Clark. I have three names because when I moved to New York City to make it on Broadway as a small town Midwestern girly, and I joined the Actors Union, there was already someone named Casey Clark in the union, so I had to add my middle name. So that is why I have three names. I still perform here and there. It is the great joy of my life to sing and to be on stage. But Vital Voice Training has been my heart's work for now the last 11 years, which is crazy. It's crazy that we're 11 years into this. Um, I come to voice as someone who I think everyone around me, really from the time I was literally 4 years old singing my first solo in church, would imagine that I was the most confident person in the universe about using my voice, right? Like, because it being on stage felt comfortable to me. It felt like home. It felt right. Um, I also am a classic eldest daughter, perfectionist, people pleaser. I don't know if anyone listening to this is an eldest daughter or if you have engaged with any of the eldest daughter content online that is proliferating recently. But that is basically like, I watch that stuff and I'm like, how dare you? How dare you pet me, right? Um, so the thing about being a perfectionist, being a people pleaser, is that the thing that you are praised for can also become your greatest source of anxiety and angst. And for me, it's been the journey of my voice hasn't been learning to use it so much as it is learning to love it in all its imperfections and its messiness, and not have my inner critic and my inner director kind of constantly nitpicking every move and telling me that I need to do more and I need to be better and I need to all of that stuff. So I come to this just inclined to absolutely adore our perfectionist high achiever clients, of which there are many. And the folks who maybe need to find their inner rebel a little bit, their inner, like, I could be messy about this, their inner, I can reveal my edges more, my too
Mm,
muchness more, without constantly needing to curate everything, right? Curation is important and it is a reality in our world. Like
yeah.
all communication happens in context. We talk about this all the time. But there's also like the core of who we are at our most unfiltered. And I want people to find more joy in using their voice from the unfiltered end of the scale as much as they do from the deeply intentional end of the scale.
Mm. So thank you both for introducing yourselves and sharing a little bit about your work as well. Um, I would like to submit this project I'm doing as my second submission for my final project because I came into this, long story short, I was like, I gotta do something. This year's gonna be fucking nutty.
Yep.
Right. And I kept trying to like over curate, over package, over a scope and sequence. Like, what can I do? What can I make myself feel? And I was like, none of this is gonna stick. None of this is working because it feels good to plan it, but when you get into it, you're like, mm.
Ooh.
And so I was like, what's the anchor for that? And I was like, it's curiosity. That won't change. And that might be helpful. But then there was like this element where and I was like, well, I'm going to do it out loud. I'm going to do it out loud. I'm not going to be censored. I'm just going to be hit and miss, stop and start, writing about it, the journey of getting to that point. I think this is the ballpark 12th one we've uh, recording here. And then there's space to go out starting in July. And I realized this uh, a couple days ago. I was just like, if I had told myself it would take me 6 months from the start of the year until mid-June to really feel like able to put pieces together in my own voice, I may not have started
Mm.
Oh, yeah, that's real.
because it would have been like, "So too long, and that's a failure," all these things. And now I'm going, "That's just how long it fucking takes."
Yeah.
Mhm.
And saying that was so empowering for myself, and it was so like, "Yeah, just how take this is how long it's gonna take." And I credit y'all's course to helping me think about just say the damn thing. You have many phrases that y'all use and taking up space and whatnot, and like thinking about that. So thank you for that because it's been like a little through line, like a little messenger in the back of my head of "No, that is the way.
Yeah.
It's not polished. It's just real." So
Mhm.
thank you both for
Yeah.
continually to do that work. And I was going to email you too. Do you have a copy of that performance?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you send it to me?
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
Say, pop back in my
What?
head because I also like I live in New Orleans. We have a costume closet, so I was moving around the hat I wore, and I was just like, and every time that song comes on, anyways,
Yes. I'm actually messaging our assistant right now.
this and anyone who is listening or watching and wants to step into their own voice and have a damn fun time doing it and be held and protected and encouraged and pushed when they need to be pushed to like practice and play with your own voice, these two, hit them up. Um, that leaves me, we talked this year. What are y'all curious about?
We have so much curiosity is a huge theme in our work. I'll just say this to start off the bat. Curiosity is the quickest way to get ourselves out of fear and nervous system activation. I'm going to let Julie go so far more into that. But in terms of our curiosity, there are so many corners to turn down and explore when it comes to the voice and how we use it and how we choose to use it, how it exists in a context. Um, I think that right now I am thinking a lot about how we exist in broken systems when we have to maybe go into stealth mode a little bit to do the work that we want to do. And like, what's the balance of stealth mode that feels like glamorous lady detective going undercover and still can light us up and still can come from a place of joy and intentionality versus the costume that feels so heavy, that feels like I'm being oppressed by other people's expectations. And I don't say that in a laughing matter. I say that in a, we live increasingly in a world that is punishing people for stepping outside of norms. So like I'm watching Andor right now, the second season of Andor, which is all about the rise of fascism. And it's such an interesting look at the different forms that resistance takes. And I'm thinking, even as I talk about this, about the character of Mon Mothma, who is a senator. She's like impossibly gorgeous and glamorous. She is fiercely for the rebel cause, but she exists in this world in which, in order to get things done, she has to subdue that. She has to talk a good game. She has to be very strategic. And sometimes she ends up swallowing to her own detriment a lot of the things that she wishes that she could say and do in the face in the service of the long-term goal. And I'm like, okay, this is kind of the moment that we're in. Like, what does that look like? And is there a way to do that in a way that isn't just soul sucking? That was a lot. I think that's my deepest curiosity right now. Like, how do we exist in this world, and retain joy, retain creativity, and like be pragmatic at the same time, like get shit done.
That resonates deeply with me because on the flip side of that resonance of what you just said, part of this curiosity thing for me is how do I safely and creatively and authentically and joyfully and healthfully go into that dissonance I'm feeling,
Yeah.
Yeah.
where you have to like, where it's really easy to like hide or stealth over or
Yeah.
put on the coat or whatever. And how
Yeah.
that, so yeah, what you just said is part of the impetus that I was feeling last November when I was like, what am I gonna do? Um,
Yeah.
what's coming up for you? What are you curious about, Julie?
Well, it's that you started where you started is very resonant. Um, Something I've been realizing is if you'd asked me this, a year ago or, before November, I would have given you an abundant list of things that I am curious about. Where I'm finding myself now is so many things that I had developed a relationship with that I was enjoying learning about, whatever has fundamentally changed since January 20th, has been affected in some way. So I think what I'm curious about is how we find our way through that, because I know we've never experienced as much of a bitch slap to the systems we're familiar with as we have the past, several months. And that, like, you see people's social media posts and they talk about, yeah, the world's collapsing around me and I have to go to work. I don't want to sit at that place. I feel like that's part of the hiding. That's part of the, are we really so isolated, self-isolated, that we can't show up for this moment, can't yeah, so I've been thinking about that. And then one thing that in addition with all of that is background, I am fascinated with cult language, and the art of the con. So I have been doing a lot of extraneous research on cult language and the art of the con, and specifically how that relates to where we find ourselves now in history. And it's honestly like my murder board has put together so many pieces of the puzzle in just like the larger picture, because we are in a giant con right now. It
Yep.
matches we are in a giant con. And the fucked up part, if I can say fucked up, is that cons capitalize and take advantage of your goodness and your trust and all of the things that glue us together as a society. So that's kind of what I mean with like things that I
Hmm.
would have said I'm curious about my relationship with them is altered, because if empathy is an enemy, if we have shifted so much, um yeah, I don't, the rest of that sentence flew out of my head like a beautiful eagle.
I I want to add to what Julie's talking about the con. I we have a long-term client who we absolutely love working with. She's a fierce lady lawyer in Texas. And she talks about disinformation and misinformation and how that affects democracy. And and
Ugh.
especially the rule of law, which is incredible. She recently updated this speech that she's been doing now for a couple of years, because like, there's a lot of new examples of misinformation and disinformation, and a lot of new sources of misinformation and disinformation. The I am currently fascinated by this landscape that we occupy and how much reality is shaped by narrative and how much narrative is controlled by a select few people, and a select few entities. One of the things that I discovered in the new research for this updated version of this speech, for example, there was a recent study done where this I think it was the Columbia Board of Journalism, maybe, asked like the top 10 leading AI chatbots a bunch of questions about Russia. And it turns out that well over half the time, they were repeating Russian propaganda. And that is because Pravda, which is the Russian propaganda arm, has flooded the internet with over 3.6 million garbage articles, basically, like AI created garbage that feeds these algorithms that then informs the public. And it's like the quality of the information that we are being fed,
Mm.
and then what we do with that and the narratives that we create and the way that we justify our thoughts and feelings and then actions via people with a vested interest in like literally destroying trust in everything, destroying trust in each other, destroying trust in institutions, in expertise. Um, it's it's terrifying. It is, and then I try to also balance that with the curiosity of like, okay, they broke it. How do we rebuild it?
Yeah.
Except in the agency part, right?
Yeah, yeah. Not landing in the despair, because it's really easy to land in despair right now.
It's a bit quicksandy, right?
Yes, very much so.
It's very quicksandy. I A couple things are coming up for me as you're speaking. I'm curious. Um, Voice, navigation, and narrative through this dissonance, through the con, and then how do we show up with our voice? But in the run of play,
Mhm.
in the run of life, how are you helping others or in your own life, play with that. Are you able, for you, as curiosity, when you go through voice and navigation and narrative and you're thinking about these things, one, in your world as vital voice folks, helping others, and then also in your own worlds, is it a conscious, deliberate thought where you have things that you like anchor yourself into so you don't go into the quicksand? Or have you found that um, there's practices that feel a bit more fluid, if that's if that makes sense, if that's the right word?
Julie, I think you're taking notes right now. Do you want to jump in?
It's it's an interesting question. All of this stuff that we think about, I'm thinking about all the time. It's the lens in which
Mhm.
I experience the world. Even the fact that you say like play, that's it. How do we take these things that are oh so serious and find the expansiveness in them? One word in particular I'm thinking about. So many of our clients have a contentious relationship with the word intimidate, because it has been fed to them for ages and ages that intimidating is bad. It is bad and wrong. And so they say, I don't want to be intimidating. And my response is, are you sure? What does your kind of intimidation look like? So then that's not a discussion we can get at. We're gonna like almost like AI, keep running over material we already know. So that's where getting into scripts and getting into the power of acting is such a jam, because now you get to try monologues and try different kinds of intimidation on, really feel what that is in your body, really feel what that is out in the world, and you've expanded your toolkit at that point. This is not
Mhm.
to say, and I, with intimidate in particular, I don't, that does not mean that we are going out into the world with the intention of being antagonistic. Like, let's get the pure essence of this word intimidate away from like all of that extra schmegma that just like wants to like
Yeah.
stick itself onto it.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that's one example of how we use our work and play to break through things. Power is deadly serious. We know it is, and yet I've never seen someone get to a kind of power that I would want to experience through just kind of head down exclusive discipline slash not caring about humanity.
Right. Right.
For me, I think the personal practice right now is twofold. Number one, Julie said this very long ago when we were talking about intuition and we were talking about bias, because those two things kind of live in very similar places in our body and our brains, right? That thing of like, I feel that this is correct and
Yeah.
therefore it must be correct. And she said the phrase, is this my gut talking or am I talking out my ass or something like that? Is this my gut or am I talking out my ass? I think that's what it was. So, and that is like, honestly, that's the question that I've been asking myself a lot right now, right? Which is like, okay, so this thing that I've just seen on the internet, right? Like that feels so right to me.
Mm.
I got to take a second and gut check. I got to take a second and simultaneously, and this is where the both and the dissonance comes in, because there is the inner knowing of the body. There is the vagus nerve and the way that it reacts, and there is intuition, and intuition is important. And again, back to disinformation and misinformation, back to bad actors who know how to manipulate us. So like making sure that I check my sources, making sure that I like verify things, making sure that as I engage in things, I do it thoughtfully. Um, and then the other thing personally, and something that I'm like really we are trying to talk about a lot, is just like the power of community. This is it is so easily this world wants to isolate us right now, and isolated people are much easier to control. They're easier to con. They're easier to make fearful and therefore ineffective. So like leaning into my community and trying to intentionally build the community. Like we've started doing a couple times a week. And by the way, you should completely come to this is we've been doing like Zoom co-working because basically we looked at each other a few months ago and we were like, wow, it's really hard to get shit done right now. Like, if we have an external deadline, sure, we can do it. But like our own goals, I don't know her. You know what I mean? And so we basically started doing Zoom co-working and we just invited a bunch of people and we're like, hey, let's just get shit done together for 90 minutes on Tuesday and Thursday. And it has been life-saving. Like something as simple as that, the intentional building of community. You don't need it to be fancy. You don't need it to have a big mission. You don't need it to be expensive. You just need to like reach out and say like, hey, you want to hang out? Like, or you want to talk or you want to connect.
Like back.
And that's been good. I think like in terms of our clients, I want to echo what Julie is saying, like, even as this feels so deadly serious, everything feels so deadly serious. That is the time that play becomes even more important. And to make it feel, I don't know, like it's got an ROI at the end of it. You know who the most charismatic people in the world are? Is the ones who have what I call the twinkle in the eye. And the twinkle in the eye can come from a lot of places. Lately, my twinkle in the eye has come a little bit from like, let's dance, motherfuckers. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's like a joy of the fight in it. There's a like, oh, I see you're underestimating me right now. Let's go. You know what I mean? And or it's figuring out how, like, again, back to glamorous lady detective undercover. Like, how can this be fun? Even as we have to deal with the reality of the world. And I am wrestling personally with even like feeling guilty about joyful moments and feeling like I have to make sure that I tell people that like, yes, I just got to sing on the Tonys and it was amazing, but also I understand that like horrible things are happening in the world right now. And like this hyper responsibility that I think anyone empathetic feels right now of like, don't let the world think that you're not taking this very seriously. And it's like, no, actually joy is resistance. And it's so important.
Vitally important. What are ways that you help folks, help yourselves step into those different personas to try them on to see, is this how I do joy this year or this month or this hour? Is this how I practice my voice? Is this because I think also when we're overwhelmed and scared and fearful and our brains automatic, are designed to keep us safe. And so it's like, go back to the default, shut it down, keep
Yeah.
it as simple and straightforward as possible. But what you're talking about is actually trying on different versions of your voice and seeing which is resonant right now for the time in which you are living. How do you help people find that? Because intellectually, I can see people I'm dearly close to going, oh yeah, that sounds, yeah. But doing it and practicing it and how to practice it is a totally different thing.
Yes.
I want to talk about an evolution that we've gone through specifically this year, I think, where we've realized that our capacity for creativity is less in it, we as a collective, like when we're in nervous system activation, our capacity for creativity is less. And I think we have always hesitated at Vital Voice Training in giving sort of exterior based notes to people, or like really simple like just say it slower. Like that's bad communication advice. Like let's start there. Just say it slower is bad communication advice. And what we have realized that sometimes that dead simple note is a way of unlocking something else. So I want to say that like I have a very complicated relationship with the term fake it till you make it. I don't think it is helpful. However, externalizing things sometimes can be a path to the internal owning of something. So that goes into costume. That goes into how you walk. That goes into what music you're listening to before you walk into this meeting. That goes into do it with a script. Imitate someone else, right? Like we learn by imitating. Like what's wrong with saying like, you know what, can you give me your best Meryl Streep? I had a client a few weeks ago who was working on a speech. This lovely man, very trepidatious public speaker. And I was like, can you give me the evil bad guy version of this speech? Like, and it's literally a speech where they're raising money for like an animal shelter. Like, but can you give me like just for fun, can we see the like Star Wars Darth Vader supervillain version of this? And the thing is, it was great. And he found interesting stuff with it. Like, so sometimes externalizing this in that sense of like, I'm just going to imitate something that I think I know of. Like, no, that's not the advanced actor way into it. You know, we want to do all the inner work and stuff, but like, that is the like get started way into it. So keep it simple.
Love that. Absolutely love that. It's playing dress up. And
Exactly.
then you might play dress up and you're like, I'm going to go dress up as the most outrageous free woman in her 70s.
Yep.
And you put on the garb and you listen to whatever vibes with you. And then all of a sudden you realize, I felt really great wearing this and
Yeah.
saying these things. And then you can bring it back into, you know, your everyday
Yeah.
self.
Yeah.
Julie, what do you want to add? I'm curious.
I'm going to zoom out a little bit in this. I was taking some notes. First of all, I have ADHD, so that's if I don't write things down, it goes into the ether. And it's this. So our voice is reflexive, and it's reflexive based on our internal experience, whether that's emotional or the connection with mental and emotional. So for me, getting to varying the tone of your voice has always been through interaction with our environment or through exploration of an emotion. That being said, when it comes to our own voices, and something even I've been thinking about lately with our own brains, we don't have perspective. So if I think, if I'm trying to explore all of these different kinds of intimidate, for example, on my own, I might think I'm getting all of these different choices or ways of exploring, but because it's all part of my own little universe, you can think you've gone so broad, but it isn't until another human being comes and shows you a part of their universe. You're like, oh, that's what they mean by try something different. um, so yes, we need that outside eye. I was going to say, literally as I wrote, imitation. You said imitation. I'm just like, where the bond is real. Um, and I get it. That's what I would say. We have to, as we're exploring edges and getting past things that make us feel two, there can be some very real nervous system activation, some very real
Yes.
responses to that. So, an exercise I remember from 2003 that honestly I think is the moment that made me decide to be a voice teacher. I mean, I even remember thinking to myself, is this the moment I decided to be a voice teacher? It was just making a loud sound and having my voice teacher come and like kind of, manipulate my hips a little bit and kind of shake out the places that I had muscle tension. And this sound came out of me that was so loud that I'd never heard myself make such a loud sound in my life. And I call it breaking the sound barrier because it was very emotional. I mean, I'm someone that was like, I shouldn't even exhale when I speak because I that much keeping myself to myself. So, we need those people to help us get over that hump of, like you said, discomfort, but also so we can borrow their brain space, almost quite literally, for perspective.
I want to add one more thing that I was thinking about during this. Julie and I were literally talking about this morning in terms of creativity and nervous system activation and whether we can be creative in these moments of extremity or if it's kind of like just not available to us because we're too much in survival mode. And we were talking about survival based creativity. Like when you are in a life or death situation, you can be remarkably creative, right? Like you could because there's no longer a filter because it's like the consequences are I live or I die. Like and those moments, hopefully no one in this audience is going to experience one of those anytime soon, but right, we know that those moments exist. We know that we connect to something bigger. But there's also something that happened, I think, when you finally accept that there is no right way to do this, when you finally accept that the world of bias, the toxic structures that we inhabit, all of this is, you can't succeed via strategy alone. There's no perfect strategy out there that exists that if you just knew it, that you'd always get it right. We both devoured this book, gosh, now a couple years ago, called Exit Interview by Christy Coulter, where she talks about her experience working for Amazon as an executive. And throughout the book, she sort of threads this like kind of like mock advice column on like how to be a woman in the tech industry. And at the end, the phrase that she uses is basically like after she has finally figured out this thing of like the game is unwinnable, right? And she talks about the freedom that comes from accepting that the game is unwinnable. And the phrase she uses is, it may be the freedom of the truly fucked, but it's still freedom, basically. There's something in that for this moment. You know what I mean? Like the inevitability of whatever it is, whatever path that we are on as the United States of America, as citizens in the year of our Lord 2025, like, what if we are in a place of, we now know the game is rigged. We now know the game is unwinnable. So what does that mean? How then are we going to interact with it? Maybe we can get back to creativity if we just accept what is.
The Janis Joplin song where it's freedom's
Just another word for nothing left to lose. Yep.
Ooh, Janice, yes.
anyone else hearing Janis play in the background?
Yep.
Everyone else like,
This one literally came on my walk on Saturday as I was heading to one of the protests.
that
Yeah.
that soundtrack. Um, I'm curious. I do that all the time, and then I like laugh at myself. Anyways, you you talked about feeling it in your body, the resonance, the dissonance, the ooh, the mm. For each of you, when you know you're on a good curiosity streak, you know you're going towards the thing. How do you know?
Oh my God, it's my favorite thing in the world. It's with the ADHD, it's hyper focus. It's this thing where suddenly all I want is to know more about what that is, and then that gets to guide my day. And then everything I find out, it's like I need to know everything, and everything else kind of gets shut off around me. But I am in it, and I feel both held and pulled forward, and that is just my favorite. Having something that I am excited about and curious about is a quality of life thing.
Mm. I too know the joy of hyperfocus, even though probably I would be diagnosed as neurotypical, whatever the hell that means. Um, it is hard to find that place right now. And I just want to say that out loud for anyone else who feels like it's hard to find that place. I like it when I have, back to that kind of external accountability, it's easier to find it when I like have a thing to do, right? But when I'm just like in my house, like last weekend, I was kind of recovering from all of this crazy travel and being really tired and stuff. And I called it just being prone for like most of the weekend. Prone, flat. Um, it was so easy to pick up my phone and start the endless doom scroll. And the thing is that feels akin to the curiosity hyperfocus, but it's not the same thing. It's not. And it's like, and figuring out how the hell to pull myself out of that is a battle. Like, and it's one that I am fighting right now. I will say that, like, if I can, again, like if I can phone a friend, go on a walk, like step away, step away from the device. But even like, having a good TV show to watch or something, like just something that gets out of the, And Julie, will you talk about the difference between fear-based curiosity, danger-based curiosity, and good curiosity, please? Because this is important.
Yes. This is work that I know from Martha Beck, who is a life coach, but let's forget that because she does actually hold several PhDs, and and so
We have a complicated relationship with life coaches.
She's
this
not
is
just
very
in Oprah magazines, y'all.
yes, yes, yes. And for any of our friends that are life coaches, you've been vetted and you pass.
Yes.
So we are
Yes.
not talking about you.
No.
Um,
We love
so
this.
the amygdala, which is the tiny almond-shaped gland that is responsible for our fight or flight, our nervous system reaction. It's very low discernment, very high reactivity. And if it sees something as danger or exciting or something that threatens status quo, it sends off this cascade of signals. Now, this phrase that people say, which is fear and excitement are the same thing, has always felt not right to me. And reading Martha Beck's work made it make sense why. Because there's two parts of the amygdala. There's like the joyful curiosity part and the dark curiosity part. So joyful curiosity, that's the part we're excited about something, learning about something, or pulling us forward. Dark curiosity is actually, I think, what I've been doing with my doom scrolling. It's when we use our curiosity to, like, say we're in a room, find every exit, look for every possibility, like start to find our survival cues.
Rehearsing disaster.
Rehearsing disaster, that's a different kind of curiosity that comes when we are negatively nervous system activated. Because the thing is, as Casey said, engaging in curiosity, the good kind, actually gets us out of nervous system activation. Breathing and focusing on something else, the same thing, like just get your mind off of it. Turns out that's true. A brain can only do one thing at a time. So yes.
And a specific detail, I think, for right now and for this comes up over and over and over again with, again, our high achieving, often extremely emotionally intelligent clients, right? The people who work with us tend to be great at reading a room and reading people. They pride themselves on that.
Mm-hmm.
And what we know is that when the nervous system activates, we begin to view the world through what we call threat goggles. It's literally like the lens of danger. So neutral faces, neutral body language, neutral words, neutral tone all gets filtered through this, is this possibly dangerous lens. So something totally innocuous like somebody furrowing their brow in your meeting goes from like, oh, that person has resting bitch face to like, oh, that person hates me and I'm going to lose my job and I'm going to be homeless and then my dreams die. So knowing that our nervous systems for protection and survival reasons will view the world through a lens of danger can help us go back to that. So we taught, you remember, hopefully, the benevolent assumption. We talked about the benevolent assumption. Sometimes the benevolent assumption is hard to get to, right? Like offering someone the grace of like, no, I know that this audience is on my side. Maybe we can't get all the way there, but we can get to the very simple, like, what if? What if it's not about me? What if this thing that I'm sensing is actually not about me? Like, what if this person looks stressed because their kid's homesick or because a dog is barking really loudly and they feel distracted and they're worried that it's going to come across, or because their air conditioner is broken and they're hot and miserable in their house right now? Like, what if it's not about me is a great kind of curiosity, I think, in the moment to practice when you start to get that like icky sense of the downward spiral of this isn't going well.
That's so helpful and practical, and we've all been there. We've all gone down the rabbit hole of we felt fine, and then 10 minutes later, you're just in a completely different mind space, emotional state, exhaustion level. Um, and I love what you were both referring to of this. They're both this is also curiosity, right? The scroll.
Mm-hmm.
You're like,
Yeah.
"Ooh, what's next? What's next? Entertain me, entertain me, entertain me," especially if it gets to do me, right?
Yeah.
The dopamine that it's clicking, it's getting
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
fed. But it's very different than, especially Julie, you were like, No, I am like head down. I'm gonna forget what time it is. It's gonna pull me. I'm gonna learn so much. I'm gonna create. I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna actually come out of this session with more energy,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
which is,
Mhm.
and so I love that y'all go to the place of technically all those actions, behaviors look like curiosity, but how we feel through and after are vastly different.
Yeah.
Vastly different. What what advice do y'all have for people who are just want to try going through this world differently? And I know a lot of people who are saying, I want to protest, I want to use my voice, I want to make sure that I'm voting with my dollars, I want to make sure that I'm doing all these things, using all the lanes of their that they can safely do, right? Um, but a lot of people haven't thought beyond, I want to do something. How do I use my voice in my unique context, in my role, in my experience, in my family, in my community? What are some tips that you can give people to start figuring out how can they tap into their own voice in a way that leads to that rejuvenating curiosity as opposed to the doom and gloom curiosity that understandably shuts us down and makes us want to hide on the couch and eat ice cream, which also can be really fun.
Sometimes we need the pint.
Sometimes we
Uh, I want to bring this full circle back to perfectionism. I think that often the biggest barrier for people when it comes to taking action right now is it doesn't feel like it's going to be the right action. It doesn't feel like it's going to be enough. It doesn't feel like it feels like they might have people criticize what they did. And like, let's be real. Yeah, if you're visible enough, people are going to criticize you. That's how it is. And unfortunately, the internet and social media has made that so easy to do. Like, you know, the joy of the No Kings protests on Saturday and the incredible turnout that they had. And like literally 10 minutes later, I'm seeing people being like, it wasn't enough. And like, they didn't have a goal and like, blah, blah, blah. And like people complaining about it. And that's the thing. People are never going to be satisfied. And especially, I think I especially want to say this to white women, particularly. We have had it ingrained that if we don't do it right, we shouldn't be doing it at all, and that is not helpful. That does not mean that we have to jump in and be the leader. um, it's combining this idea of small imperfect action, knowing that it's not going to be enough and that it might be criticized, with seek out the community. Seek out the people who have been doing this work for longer than you have. Seek out the voices that are worth listening to. And I will just say, like, seek out Black women, seek out Black women organizers. They have been doing this work forever, and listen and just try. Just keep trying. That's all we can do, is just keep trying, is what I would say.
I was thinking about this is years ago when I was 13 or 14. I was in a therapy session and my therapist said something like, what do you love? If say, pretend you were in Nazi Germany, she literally said, and everyone in your family had died, like, what would you live for? What would be the thing that kept you going? And I didn't have an answer. And that question has always been kind of a guiding question, like, what's the thing that's just mine? Yes, of course, community, and yes, we are interdependent, but I think we get away with detaching ourselves from our own strengths, our own stories, and I feel like right now the moment is about reattaching ourselves to those things. Like, what are your strengths? What do you value in this world? The writer Rebecca Solnit said something that, or wrote something that, not everything can be saved, but anything that can be saved is worth saving.
mm,
And I think that that's really what this has to come down to, is figure out the thing that you care about, recognize you don't need to entrepreneur this shit. Like, the organizations exist, and again, like voice is a learnable skill. Activism is a skill. And I just finished a book called Let This Radicalize You that was an incredible guide to this world of activism, and it written by a Black woman. There's a lot to learn. So don't assume you won't be effective. Don't assume you won't have impact.
Mm.
And also don't assume that it has to be big or, extreme to be effective.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that because if at the end of the day, it keeps you grounded and keeps you in living within it and it keeps you creating and you participating and you healthy, that's good too. And who knows who's watching around you, especially if, I think especially if you have youth around you or uh, family or anything
Mm-hmm.
else, what people can learn from each other doing that. I'm curious about how you guys bring your own curiosity together because I know for a fact you live on opposite coasts.
Yep.
You have vastly different uh, histories that have brought you into voice as an instrument and as a skill and as a profession. Um, how do you work? How do you bring your curiosity and creativity into this 11-year standing creative duo?
It's also a skill to learn.
Yeah.
It's for as different as parts of us are, we do share some portions of our brain at this point. Um, when we get curious about something, we are both the kind of people that just want to know everything about it. Going back to that, you get propelled by a project. We have found logistically that a walk and talk, a phone walk and talk, is incredibly valuable. That we can exchange ideas that way. We also meet several times a week, actually every single weekday. And if we start getting on something that we're excited about or curious about, we hit record on that for a deep dive later. And sometimes we're curious about different things, but often in presenting it to the other person, that can again expand all those things that we focus on.
I have told many people that the conflict relationship that I have with Julie is the healthiest of any relationship in my life. And I think that that is because like we have to practice what we preach, right? Like that's kind of baseline, right? But there's through 11 years and different people, you're going to end up in conflict. Like that is a fact of relationship in life, and it's not a failing. It's as our friend Pierre likes to say, friction creates sparks, right? I think what makes conflict work for us, and again, this has taken practice, is not letting things fester, like speaking up, but always coming back to the deep trust that we have that whatever is being shared is coming from a place of let's figure this out. And if you say something that hits me funny, I'm going to tell you so that you can go, oh, what I meant was blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Because it's I think in any relationship, but I think particularly in long-term relationships, like you end up with kind of the same issues like over and over again, right? And that's because of like personality type and like work style and all of that things, like, and you can either let those become like a historical indictment on like how you always are, or you can be like, okay, and this is our given circumstances that we work within and that we are creative within with each other, knowing that both of us, our highest goal at all times is to support our clients, build our business, and help each other thrive. Like, it matters to me that Julie feels like she is thriving and useful and fulfilled and all of that good juicy stuff. Like, and I know that she feels the same way about me, and I trust that. So that underlying any potential like friction or conflict or annoyance or whatever means that we can come to solutions pretty damn quickly, honestly. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
That,
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, because a lot of conversations that I find myself in, they're talking about collaboration. Curiosity is great, but how do you do that at work? How do you do that with people on Zoom or whatever the virtual mode is? How do you do that with people, you know, how do you build the relationship so that the curiosity thrives, um, as opposed takes another route? I know we're close to the hour. And how can people find you? How can they find your services and read what you write and learn from you and pay you? And
So our website is very easy. It is vitalvoicetraining.com. It is currently in the midst of a redesign, but it's still up in its old version. We were very excited about that. But we're not really on Instagram anymore. Like, it's just kind of not feeding our souls. We are on LinkedIn, of all places that I would not necessarily expect to be excited about social media. I have met some really freaking cool people on LinkedIn lately. It's not all broetry and horrible, self-serving weird AI crap, right? There are some genuinely, it reminds me of 10 years ago Twitter, back when Twitter was actually a place where you could, sift through the crap and have really interesting conversations with cool people. So friend us on LinkedIn, Casey Erin Clark and Julie Fogg, Fogg with an H. We would love to connect with you.
thank you so very much. Julie, anything parting words?
One of the phrases that we have used for many, many years that is about taking your space in the world or occupying your space, and I've always said it's both a physical directive and a rallying cry, is let your butt be big. And that's what I think I want to leave this conversation with, because I think we need more of that irreverence, occupy your space, and don't be afraid to look bad while you're doing it. Let your
Mm.
butt be big. Let's rock this. We can do this.
We like big butts and we cannot lie.
Bigger the better. I was hoping you'd say that one. I was like, whoa, I think I know what this is. To both of you, thank you so much for this conversation, for taking time out of your schedules, for sharing what you do. I am over the moon. Thank you both.
Thank you, Beth.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
Till next time.